I'm Kraig Conrad, NCMA CEO, and I'm delighted to be here in the Leidos studios with Kim Denver, Senior Vice President and Chief Contracts Executive for Leidos. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
And Kim, before we get started, I wanted to thank you and Leidos for being our very first major prime to adopt the NCMA contract management standard. So thank you so much for your time. I want to jump right in on the why. So tell us why Leidos decided to adopt the contract management standard.
So, Craig, first, thank you for having me today and giving me the opportunity to talk about this. Throughout my many years of leading contracts organizations, both on the government side and the industry side, elevating the profession, defining the profession has been a cause for me as well. Seeing it become a profession. And this went all the way back to the 90s, right? Back then I joined as a charter member in NCMA organization in Little Rock. And so this initiative for me is yet another step in defining the profession. I so much want to continue the partnership with NCMA because you share this vision. And I think NCMA has been an organization that has made great strides in truly defining contracts management as a profession. Specifically for Leidos, the reasons we adopted it was one, as I mentioned, continuing to develop contracts as a profession. The next piece would be developing our workforce around the CMS and at an opportune time in terms of what comes next for Leidos. As you know, we've recently taken on a new CEO. So I think this dovetails in greatly with where we may be going in the future in that workforce. And then I think a third objective is all about the framework and the language that it establishes for stakeholders as we begin to develop an understanding in terms of how we work together, how we drive value for both organizations on the buy and sell side. So those would be the primary reasons why Leidos as a company adopted it.
Well, certainly thank you again for being on this journey with us to elevate our profession. It's certainly part of our mission, and I'm delighted that you share that with us. So what do you see, and you mentioned a little bit about Leidos, but what do you see as the key benefits of adopting the CMS?
Well, let me stick to those three topics because that's where I really see the benefits. First, I think continue to develop it as a profession puts us with a seat at the table. It helps others in the organization get context for what we do and how we drive value for the profession. The other thing that I think where we see benefits is developing our workforce, competency models, building that into how we develop them, the fidelity that we create with respect to a career or a job. And then I think the last piece is, again, developing understanding between buy side, sell side, and stakeholders. The CMS, again, provides a framework, I think, not just for contract professionals, it's also for supply side, sell side, but even those functional areas that we work with to provide value or provide teamwork with. So I think that's where you're going to see benefits. I think you'll see greater teamwork among the parties that it takes to do the technical business that we do, the sophisticated business that we do in terms of negotiating contracts and then also delivering those contracts for our customers and stakeholders. Certainly
two key themes in there. One is being part of the journey to develop the profession, but Leidos, your organization itself, you see value in how that can help to build your team and expand your team across all the functional areas. That's really powerful. So that does connect us to the next thing. We all recognize that we all serve the mission, whether you're buying or selling, whether you're developing a proposal or you're closing the contract out. So how do you see common language help you in serving your customers?
So when I think about that, I think about my time. The majority of my career has been on the government side and about 10 years plus on the industry side. What I really see from CMS and how it drives that is about the relationships. I've seen the value in terms of strong relationships, coming from a similar mind of understanding, and that leading to mission success for our customers, in terms of what we're trying to deliver. There's a quote that I like to steal from L.P. Hartley, and I chop it up a little bit. His quote was, that the past is a foreign country. Well, I like to say contracts is a foreign country. They do things differently there. But we understand the culture and we speak the language. And that's what a contracts professional can bring to those conversations, because it is esoteric at times and things can be lost in translation. But the CMS has created this framework for us to at least have some base level of understanding for buy side, sell side. Because when you get into a transaction, it is buy side, sell side, right? Contracts, procurement, and such. So I think that gives us a great understanding to drive conversation and work through issues that may come through contract performance. I really think that's where it really leads to the benefit to customers, but not just customers, stakeholders as well.
You mentioned a little bit earlier about your employees, your team, all important mission partners. So how do you feel the common language empowers your employees?
First, I think it starts with that Leidos stepped forward to adopt the CMS. Our CEO, Tom Bell, started just before we adopted and just before we announced. His words to me and his leadership team was that he valued being out front on this. I think Leidos adopting, I think our CEO, who has some contracts experience, speaking on it to his leadership team, I think that in and of itself is empowering to employees. I think what CMS also does, it provides fidelity to what we do as contracts professionals. And the more fidelity you have about your role as a contract professional, it helps you develop your career and your career path. So it gives them some an ability to look and see what they would like in their career. In leading organizations, I've had contracts professionals say to me, what's my next role? What's my career path? And many times, what's my next job? What's my next position? I think what CMS helps organizations do is provide fidelity in terms of how to build your resume and how to prepare yourself for that next position or job that you don't know is coming, and you're ready for it ahead of time because you're developing that. I think the other thing is it takes us to a point where we're not just looking at contracts management as a job, but rather a career. So I think it provides context into what we do. And that in itself is empowering to employees to give them the information of where they want to go in their career and how they want to build their resumes and their capabilities to drive value for companies.
Well, very solid that there's a top viewpoint here that helps contracting understand that they can be a value function, not a compliance function alone.
Correct.
Clearly, compliance is important. So the other elements that are around adopting sort of bring us to the point of how do we build frameworks for hiring and training. So how does the CMS guide your approach to having that framework for hiring and training at Leidos?
Well, as I mentioned previously, I have had a lot of employees say, what's my next step? So we had been working on competency models prior to adopting CMS. When you consider CMS is ANSI approved, recognized standard, it quickly became apparent to us that CMS helped us accelerate those models, and we needed to for development of employees. I think the next thing that it did was it showed us that with regard to hiring, it will be very helpful also in providing fidelity to job specifications, levels in your career, and some insight in terms of that growth pattern in your career. So in our hiring practices, I think it gives insight when you're seeing a job description. There's common language to be spoken about what you will do or what that job entails within the profession. So I think I see it further as The more you have that, it makes it Leidos and any company that adopts it as a desirable place to work because they have some fidelity and context around what it is you would be expected of you to deliver value as a contracts management professional.
And I certainly thank Leidos again, because part of adopting helps you look like your customers, because the federal government, through the FACT-CP and DWIA, have adopted the contract management standard as the basis of their hiring training framework. But I love that you want to take it even beyond that, which is establishing competencies and then career pathway development. So the future, let's start looking out ahead a little bit. And what would you like to see as a result of NCMA's Common Language Initiative more broadly to both the profession and the trade space?
More broadly, I'd like to see a greater adoption of peer companies and others. I think that what it will lead to, and I hope it leads to, is a greater understanding of what the contracts workforce brings, the value that they bring. An understanding, not just within the contracts community, but communities of practice, to understand how contracts fits in the picture, what contracts can deliver. If I could give you an analogy of the objective state that I'd want to see, this notional state, I would liken it to an analogy of we all recognize that doctors are a profession. The medical field is a profession of doctors. If you're ever going to go have a surgery, you take confidence in knowing that that surgeon is going to bring the team that they need to bring. But there's this implied confidence in their expertise. I think the CMS is another step in that profession. And I want to see, as you combine the CMS with certifications, the training that NCMA has, that there's this implied confidence when you have a contracts management professional on your team. You can feel comfortable that they know what to bring to the situation to address it for both parties, buy side, sell side.
That's certainly part of our mission. The more we are known as a profession globally, the greater chances we have training programs at university level and non-degreed pathways for our current students who like to learn differently. So,
well, if I could add to that, I think the other thing I'd like to see, NCMA has done so much towards building the profession, and I see this as another step. We've had some conversation. I'd like to see this as we continue in the profession. One, looking at it as an ability to hold accountability as a profession, right? I think that's one almost definitional for a profession. They hold accountability for themselves, right, and their membership. And then I think the other thing is, and I don't know where we've gone there, is professions also in some ways provide some pro bono, right? And as I envision, and I think maybe there's some things we can do as professionals, whether it's you get CLE credit for it or such, but you've done something to help maybe small business or others that might need some pro bono to, how do you get into the game? How do you do business, either with the government or in this contracts workforce? So that's an area where I'm looking further to see where we take this collectively.
well, your counsel's been amazing throughout our entire journey here, so I appreciate that. And the more we look like those professional societies, the more opportunities we have to support broader initiatives. So as we close out here, and you've mentioned you want to see others on this journey of adopting, what words of wisdom would you like to share with those other organizations that may consider adoption?
Well, first, I think it's in our collective interest in industry to adopt the CMS. It provides a framework for communication across parties that seek to do business with one another, again, buy side or sell side. I think by having CMS, it helps an organization build in standards to their competency development practices for their employees. You can build in fidelity to your hiring practices and set some expectations. And I think it creates a common framework, and this is an important one to me. It creates a common framework not just between buy-side, sell-side contract professionals. It creates a framework for stakeholders PMs, engineers, to understand and have context about what a contract professional brings to the table for value. And I think the greater context that we have, that drives us towards, puts us in a better place for all parties in a contract management process to deliver value for their organizations. And then I think ultimately, as we've mentioned before, it empowers employees to navigate their careers, develop their resumes, and build themselves for the next opportunities. And the more we collectively do that, I think that organizations that adopt CMS will become desirable places for people to seek contract management jobs and pursue an incredible career.
Well said. I can't imagine a better value for those seeking to adopt. Well, Kim, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to talk about adopting the contract management standard.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to continuing this journey with NCMA. I value our partnership, and I think we have a ways to go to continuing to develop the profession. So thank you for that partnership.
Thank you for being on the journey with us.